and welcome to Mike Academy. So in this video, we are going to explain the concept of momentum and coefficient of restitution using this particular question. The question says, the coefficient of restitution between the two color A and B as shown in figure 5 is 0.65. Determine the color velocities after impact and the energy loss during impact. Okay, so you're given this to be the color. This is color A of mass 5 kg, and this is color B of mass 3 kg. Color A is moving with a speed of 12 meters per second, whereas color B is moving with a speed of 9 meters per second. Okay, and you know that momentum P is actually the product of mass and velocity. Now, this is before impact when the two objects are coming to collide one another. Therefore, the momentum of this column A, simply called as PA, is simply given as 5 times the speed, which is mass times velocity. So the mass of color A is 5, the velocity of color A is 12. So you simply have 5 times 12. So this simply means that the momentum of color A is simply 60 kilogram meters per second. Similarly, we calculate the momentum of color B, which is equal to 3 times 9. So you have 3 multiply 9, and that is simply equal to 27 kilogram meter per second. Okay. So before collision, these are the respective momentum of each of these bodies. So you simply find sum of momentum before collision, summation of momentum, okay, before collision. Summation P is simply momentum of A plus momentum of color B. This is the total momentum before collision. So you simply have 60 plus 27. This implies summation of momentum is equal to 87 kilograms meter per second. So this is momentum before collision occurred. Alright, so this is the sum of momentum before the collision. Okay, now what then happens after collision? Let's examine. Now at impact, okay, at impact, which means when they collide, you have something like this. So this is color A colliding with color B. So you have, this is A and this is B. Remember, the mass of A is 5 kg, whereas the mass of B is 3 kg. So what happens is, this is at collision, okay? This is at collision. Now at collision, what happens is, of course, they collide together. Now, regardless of the speed, what plays an important role during collision is the mass. Since this object has a higher mass, that means it will compel this object with lower mass to move in its direction. Remember that A in was moving to the right. Okay, remember that A was moving to the right, whereas B was moving to the left. But since mass A is bigger than mass B, therefore it will compel this object to move in the direction of A. So at impact, you have this. Now after impact, the two objects will move off in the same direction. So you have something like this. So this is color A having the higher mass, and it is going in this direction, but now it is moving with a new speed, and we don't know the new speed. Simply call that VA prime, call that VA prime. And this is color B, also will move in the direction of color A, since color A has a larger mass than color B. So this is color B. It will also move in this same direction with a new speed. You can call this VB prime, since we don't know the new speed, but their masses still remains the same. The mass of A is still 5 kg, whereas the mass of B is still 3 kg. The only thing now that changes is their speed. Okay, since they collide, of course they will move now at a different speed altogether. So you find, what then is momentum after collision? Momentum of color A still call that PA. Call this PA prime, which is momentum of color A, is going to now be, remember, momentum is mass times velocity, so it becomes mass is 5 times VA prime. So this is actually 5 VA prime. That is the momentum of color A after collision. Similarly, momentum of color B, called that PB prime, after collision remains 3 times VB prime. So this is actually 3 VB prime. All right, now from the principle, okay, now you find summation of momentum after collision. Okay, so you call that summation P prime. Summation of momentum after collision is simply PA prime plus PB prime, and this is equal to 5 VA prime plus 3 VB prime. This is the sum of momentum after collision. Now, from the principle of conservation of linear momentum, the sum of momentum before collision is equal to the sum of momentum after collision. So we simply equate these summations, okay, the first summation and the second summation. From the principle of conservation of linear momentum, we have summation of P equals summation of P prime, which means the sum of momentum before collision equals the sum of momentum after collision. So this simply implies summation of momentum before collision, we obtain 87. So this simply implies that 87 is equal to 5 VA prime plus 3 VB prime. Call this equation 1. Okay, now we are given the value of restitution. So given restitution, the value of restitution E was given to us as 0.65. What then is restitution? Now, restitution is simply the ratio of the velocity of separation to the velocity of approach. So this simply means E equals velocity of separation all over the velocity of approach. And this is actually the velocity of separation is the final velocity VB prime after collision has taken place minus, now this is divided by the velocity of approach is simply VA minus VB, which means the initial speed before collision minus the final speed before, which means the initial speed of color A before collision minus the initial speed of color B before collision. Whereas VB prime means the final speed of color B after collision minus VA prime means the final speed of color A after collision. So let's plug in these values and see. The value of restitution was given as 0.65, so therefore you have 0.65 is equal to, we don't know the final speed after collision, so VB prime minus VA prime all over the initial speed of color A was given as 12 minus the initial speed of color B was given as 9. So this simply implies that 0.65 is equal to VB prime minus VA prime all over 12 minus 9 simply gives us 3. So we can easily cross multiply. 3 multiplying the whole of this give us this value or this difference. Okay, so let's cross multiply now. We are simply going to have 3 times 0.65, and that is equal to VB prime minus VA prime. So this simply implies, what is then 3 times 0.65? That gives us 1.95 to be equal to VB prime minus VA prime. So you can call this equation 2. So we have two equations now in terms of VB prime and VA prime, as can be seen here. This is as can be seen here, this is the first equation in terms of VA prime and VB prime. Now you have the second equation, okay? You have equation 2 also in terms of VB prime and VA prime. Now let's make VB prime subject of the formula in this equation 2 and plug it into equation 1 and find the value of their final velocities, which is what the first part of the equation is asking us to do. Okay, Now from equation 1, let's make VB prime subject. So we are simply sending VA prime over here. So this simply implies that VB prime is equal to 1.95. Negative sign cross an equal to sign becomes positive. So we have plus VA prime. So this is our value for VB prime. Call this equation 3. Now we'll put equation 3 into equation 1. Alright, so recalling equation 1, we had from equation 1, we have that 87 is equal to 5VA prime plus 3VB prime. Now we know what VB prime is. Let's plug it into this equation. Okay. So from equation 1, this is our equation, and from equation 3, we had VB to be equal to this. So let's plug VB prime into this equation 1. So this simply implies that 87 is equal to, we have 5VA prime plus 3. In place of VB prime, we'll put in this value, 1.95 plus VA prime, and you have this. So 87 is equal to 5 VA prime plus, now let's expand this bracket using 3. So we have 3 times 1.95. That gives us 5.85. You have 5.85 plus 3 times VA prime gives us 3 VA prime. So this simply implies that 87 is equal to, you have 5, okay, we can simply take like times now, 5 VA prime plus 3 VA prime. That simply gives us 8 VA prime plus, you're left with 5.35 plus 5.35. Now we can send 5.35 over to this side of the equation. Therefore, you have 87 minus 5.85, please. 5.85, please. That's 5.85. All right, please pardon me for that. That's 5.85. So 87 minus 5.85, and that is equal to, you have 8 VA prime. Okay. So 87 minus 5.85, this simply implies we have 81.15 to be equal to 8 VA prime. So we can simply make VA prime subject of the formula. This simply implies that VA prime is equal to 81.15 divided by 8, and therefore the final speed of block A or collar A after collision becomes 10.14 meters per second. So this is the final velocity of block A after the collision has taken place. So if you plug this value into equation 3, you can find the final velocity of block B after collision has taken place. Now, not forgetting this is our equation 3. Therefore, from 3, we can find VB prime to be equal to, this is 1.95 plus VA prime, which is 10.14. So this simply implies that, okay, this simply implies that the final speed or final velocity of block B or collar B after the impact has taken place becomes 10.14 plus 1.95, and that simply gives us 12.09 meters per second. So these are the final velocities of collar A and collar B immediately after the impact has taken place. All right. Now the next question is asking us to find the energy lost. Okay. So we have to find the energy lost during impact. Okay. Now the energy lost The energy lost change in T is simply given as T1 minus T2, where T1 simply means the initial kinetic energy before collision. Okay, T1 is initial kinetic energy before collision. Okay, so since this object possess a mass and velocity, that means they possess kinetic energy. So this is the initial kinetic energy before collision, and T2 is the final kinetic energy after collision, after the collision has taken place. All right, so what then is T1? T1 is equal to, remember, we have two objects colliding, color A and color B. So the kinetic energy before collision is 1 all over 2 mass A VA squared plus 1 all over 2 mass B VB squared. So this is equal to 1 all over 2. Mass A was given to us as 5 kg. So you have 5 times the speed of block A, or color A, was given to us as 12. So times 12 squared, okay, plus 1 all over 2 times mass B was given as 3 kg times speed of B before collision was given as 9 all squared. So this simply implies that T1 is equal to, I'm going to be pointing everything all at once. Do well to point along with me to avoid calculation errors. All right. So upon evaluation, after multiplying through and adding, we had our first kinetic energy to be 481.5 joules. Similarly, we find the kinetic energy after collision, and kinetic energy after collision, which is T2, is equal to 1 all over 2. Now, still mass remains the same, ma, but the speed of color A after collision is simply va prime plus 1 all over 2. Once again, mass of color B remains the same, but its speed changes vb prime. So this is equal to 1 all over 2. The mass of color A remains 5 times the new speed of color A, which is va prime. We obtained 10.14, so times 10.14 all squared plus 1 all over 2. Mass of color B is constant, which is 3, multiplied by the new speed of color B, we obtain 12.09. So you have 12.09 all squared. Okay, so this simply implies that final kinetic energy after collision is equal to, once again, I'm going to be multiplying all through together just to save the time. All right, so upon evaluation, we obtain the final kinetic energy to be equal to 476.30 joules. All right, so the energy lost at impact, therefore energy lost, okay, the energy lost change in T, like I said, is simply T1 minus T2. So change in T is equal to T1 itself gave us 481.5. So you have 481.5 minus T2 gave us 476.30. So this implies that the energy lost is equal to, so let's obtain this value. That simply gives us 5.2 joules. Alright, so this is the value of the energy, or the amount of the energy lost. Alright guys, so that's it for that question on momentum and coefficient of restitution. I will see you in the next video with more problems on momentum. Thanks, and just please, if you're new to the channel, do well to encourage our work by liking our videos, commenting nicely, sharing this video to your friend, and of course subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video. Thanks.